It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jonas Savimbi.
Members of the National Press Club, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be here to address you on the issues that we have to deal with, not only in Angola, but in Southern Africa. First of all, I want to say that when we arrived here on Tuesday, we were grieved with the explosion of the shuttle, and we were saddened. And everybody that we met, we extend to them our sympathy. I came here first to thank those friends who have worked so hard to get the Clark Amendment repealed, because the Clark Amendment has given, in 1976, a green light to the Soviet Union to dominate our country. Second, even if the Clark Amendment is repealed, if it is not followed by action, this I mean aid, then we cannot change the scene. So I came here to plead with the administration, with the Congress, with the American public to support our struggle. I have been in the struggle for 28 years now, 15 years against Portuguese colonialism, 10 years now against Russian aggression. All that we want is our people to have a say in the affairs of their own country. When, in 1975, the Portuguese, after a coup, they have decided to grant independence to the former Portuguese colonies, they found it very easy to hand over power to Mozambique, to one party, which is Frelimo. The same in São Tomé and Príncipe. The same to Cabo Verde Island, and the same to the Guinea-Bissau. But for Angola, the Portuguese, they found that problem was so complicated because we had 3 liberation movements that only elections could decide which group was more popular, and then from the vote, that most voted party could decide to make or not a coalition. We still stand for that. We want that our people must be given a chance to elect those that must govern them. We had a transitional government which worked well. Only the intervention of 12,000 Cubans has stopped the government to function. People, they will say, but now you are getting support from South Africa. When you fight a war, you get support from wherever it comes. But also, I'm not only getting support from South Africa, I'm getting support from many black independent African countries. All the gentlemen you are seeing here who accompany me, we are traveling on diplomatic passports of several African countries. No one of us has a South African passport. Because I think that's the main issue that we want to deal with. Do we in UNITA condone apartheid? No. How, as a black man, a black leader, can I accept the apartheid? No. And I think apartheid is being dismantled at home and abroad. But the choice of saying, let us first to deal with apartheid, and then next we deal with Soviet expansionism, is agreeable. To my mind, it's not. Because if we find it wrong, the white South Africans to deny opportunity to black people in South Africa, so they have to work so that they will be able, all groups in South Africa, to work together and to shape their own destiny. It is also not right. We condemn it, that white Cubans, white Russians, they have to dominate, to oppress, to kill the indigenous people from Angola. Furthermore, does South Africa has any possibility of expansion? On my own understanding, no. But the Soviet Union is the most important empire at this time in the world. And Gorbachev, since he came to power, we saw him acting more aggressively against the Afghans, against the Cambodians, against the Eritreans, and against us. If you set your priority that first is apartheid, then it is the Cubans and the Russians in Angola. You may get them in the Cape, it will be too late. And I don't think it is in the best interest of the United States to lose that strategic area, the control of the oceans, the access to the strategic minerals. Again, what the Russians have been doing is every time, everywhere, to further their interests. What's the behavior of the government in Rwanda? One, in 1980, when Russia has invaded Afghanistan, they supported it at the United Nations. Second, when the South Korean airlines were shut down, the MPLA supported it. Third, when there was a movement to boycott the Olympic Games here in Los Angeles, the MPLA supported it. Then I don't think, because of the Gulf oil, you can forget where your own interests are. People are saying that I was trained in China. Yes. In the 60s, the African independent countries had no experience of training others. So they have advised us to go where we could get training. And it's still my deep philosophy. I think no leader has a right to send his followers to fight and die, and themselves trying to spare their lives. If your ancestors, George Washington, Samuel Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and others, if they went all to Paris, along with Benjamin Franklin, and nobody was here to conduct the war, I don't think that he could have succeeded. Anyone who wants to lead his people for freedom, he has to take the risks. Freedom means risks. It is why, but I had to go wherever I could get the training and then be able to lead my people. Since 1966, I have been leading my people from within, not from outside. I had never had a base in Lusaka, in Kinshasa, in Pretoria, and I don't intend to have any. Again, you are asking me why you come to ask our money. I think we are facing tremendous odds. 45,000 Cubans, 1,500 Russians, 2,000 North Koreans, 2,500 East Germans, a small country like Angola, 200 jet fighters, 160 helicopters, 100 transport planes. I think we need your support. And American people is a generous people. American people stand And in your freedom also, when you fought for your freedom, people like France have extended support to you. Benjamin Franklin arrived in Paris earlier December 1776. I have to say that I was honored to be received by President Reagan, who is a warm person. I had a long discussion with the Secretary of State, Mr. Schultz, went on very well. Jonas Savimbi is me. My father was not only a railway man, he was a Protestant minister. And from my early days, he told me that we should fight to be independent. At first, he thought that the black Americans will come to deliver us from Portuguese bondage. But in 1945, he said, no, you have to do it yourself. Go to school. I fought. In 1973, my father died in jail under Portuguese colonial rule. I am in the bush with my mother, who is 86, and she's still with me. He believes in what I'm doing. Thank you. I am open to your questions.
The first questioner actually is a two-part question. Do you support President Reagan's policy of constructive engagement with South Africa? And secondly, should the United States get tougher with South Africa?
One, we have to get a correct interpretation of the constructive engagement. And I think I'm not going to disclose my discussions with officials, but what we want is that solving the problem of Southern Africa, where the trading is Cuban withdrawal for Namibia independence, has been tried for 5 years without result. Two remarks. One, you can negotiate only successfully if you do it from a strong position. It is why we lost 5 years. Second, UNITA has to be part of the package. This is what I'm discussing here. They have to talk independence of Namibia, reconciliation in Angola, and the withdrawal for the Cubans. Then I think there we will be in total agreement with that one. To be tougher with South Africa or not, I think the position is that you, the Americans, are the people who can help the South Africans, because you had the same problem here when the civil rights were fighting for their own position. I think you understand it much better. But the blacks here were in minority and the whites in majority. But it took you some time. I think you have a very good advice to give South Africans. In South Africa, the whites are in minority and the blacks in majority. I think there are fears. I saw a very wise head of state, African head of state, before I came, and he told me, President Reagan should help us to reach two things: to kill the illusions of the Russians and the Cubans that in Angola a military option is an option at all, so that we kill the fears of the white people in South Africa, that if they work with the other black people, they may be drawn to the sea. Then I think these are the two things we have to do. And they are complementary.
Several questions deal with the Gulf oil operations in Angola. This person wants to know, seeing that Gulf Oil provides such a major financial role in supporting the MPLA government, what is your attitude toward the company? Do you regard the Gulf installations as valid military targets?
One, we have to make a distinction about the American citizens working there. So we have to do all we can so that American lives are not endangered. Secondly, we have to state it in very clear and firm terms. It is the money of Gulf oil which is making the Cubans going. The Cubans and the Russians, they are killing indigenous people of our country because they are getting money from the Gulf. I think it's wrong. It's moral wrong, and also in the terms of helping the Russians with the money of the Americans, I think it's unacceptable.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of UNITA, Jonas Savimbi.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I want to thank the National Press Club for inviting me again to address you and to deal with the problem of Angola and also to deal with the problem of peace in Southern Africa. As all of you know, I have been in this country for a week. I traveled first to the Deep South. I went to Mississippi, to Alabama, to meet with some of my brothers. It is true that in some places there were some protesters, but I want to tell you that there were only 6. But they were so organized that they arrived always first than I did. From there I came to Washington. I worked at Capitol Hill in order to launch my plan in 4 points for peace in Angola. And also, I took advantage of participating in launching a task force of Democrats and Republicans who have pledged to work in the Congress and to explain my plan for peace. And I had also a meeting with the Secretary of State Schultz, with the Assistant Secretary Crocker, and this morning I had the honor and the privilege to be received by President Reagan. To them all, I have presented my plan. I have discussed that plan. I did not come here this time to ask for any additional assistance at all. I came here in order to launch that plan. Why? Because the United States is playing a mediator role between South Africa, MPLA, the Cubans, and also I understand that the Soviet Union is giving its reserved maybe, but approval and support. When I'm going to read the plans, I think some people, they have that plan, but the order is this one. First of all, that the United States should maintain contacts with all the parties involved in the conflict. The MPLA, the Cubans, and the South Africans. But at last stage, UNITA and SWAPO have to be also involved, because you cannot solve the problem in Angola without UNITA and MPLA talking. And also you cannot implement the resolution 435/78 without the participation of SWAPO. Secondly, that the assistance from the United States to UNITA should not be stopped as long as the Soviet and the Cubans continue to support MPLA. The third point, as the United States is playing a very important role of mediation in conjunction with the key African independent states, they should work for promoting dialogue between MPLA and UNITA in order to form an interim government of national unity, to organize a ceasefire, and to have free and fair elections. The fourth point, again, the United States, in conjunction with key African states, should work to have a date of elections in Angola after we cease the hostilities. I'm not going to try to answer to your questions before you put them. But I have been here this week and I know some of them. Why to Mississippi? Why to Alabama? Since 1981, I have been waiting for a meeting with the Black Caucus here in this country. It has been long, 7 years. Then I have decided to go to other leaders, like the mayor, Evers, who is here sitting in this room, other leaders like Reverend Dr. Alvenati and others, in order to explain the problem of UNITA, in order the people to know, to listen, and to judge. I think those are the fundamentals of democracy. And I can assure you here that we have made a very modest, small, but firm start in talking to the black leaders. Then why this task force? The task force was formed by my friends, Democrats, as well as Republicans. And I have met with so many Democrats this time that I never expected. And I think the people, they have understood my program. They have put questions. It is also important to say that there is a delegation from MPLA in town, because all of us will realize that America is playing an important role. I have asked some Democrats who are close to the MPLA to tell the MPLA that I was in town and I was available to talk to them. They did not come. Because I said it is confusing me to come to you and put my points. And after leaving the MPLA, they go there to put also their points. Why not to meet and we discuss them? I am waiting, as I have 2 days to go, and I think they will stay more. I hope that they will decide to come so that we can discuss. And the other point I want to make is that here, because of this emotional problem for South Africa, people, they did not understand very well the issues that we are dealing with. We are fighting for our country in Angola. I have been in the struggle now for almost 30 years. And I fought against the Portuguese for 15 years. We have earned our independence, and in the agreement that we signed with the Portuguese, MPLA and FNLA, we had a clause which called for free and fair elections. This is why in my platform I am also calling for free and fair elections. It's not something new. I have put also this plan to President Reagan, and President Reagan has received this plan, and I had a promise that the administration will take these points in consideration while they are negotiating with the MPLA, the South Africans, and the Cubans. America can play a very important role to bring peace, reconciliation to Angola, peace and stability to the whole region. What's our position about South Africa? We are against apartheid. We have been against apartheid. As a black leader who has been fighting for 30 years, I cannot endorse, condone, or approve the apartheid. But being myself involved in my own struggle to liberate my country, I have really little that I can do. However, my own observation of the situation in South Africa, I think that the liberation of Mandela can play a key role to solve that problem. Because I feel that President Botha, representing the white community, and Mandela with others, like Mondlane, Buthelezi, they could, all the South Africans by themselves, to discuss their problems and to find a solution. I personally cannot do anything I want to, but I have my own war, and I cannot fight in two fronts. Lastly, it's not the first time in history that you see people getting support where you can get it. And or sometimes getting support or giving support to the people that you don't agree with their system. It is why Roosevelt and Churchill, they gave support to Stalin in order to stop the Nazis. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present to you Dr. Jonas Savimbi.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to be here again to address you on the current issues of Angola. The first item that I want to deal with is that one of negotiations, because for 15 years we have been fighting against the Russians, against the Cubans, in order to get our country free from a foreign yoke and to give our people a chance to determine themselves the future of that country. As you may remember, from December 1989 to May 1990, we were submitted to a very powerful aggression which lasted 137 days from the MPLA and from the Russians, because the Cubans did not take place on that offensive. But the forces of UNITA have prevailed. This is one of the reasons why today the MPLA is talking to us, because they have now come to a conclusion that a military option is not an option at all. If we did not prevail in Mavinga, the MPLA could not have accepted to come to the negotiating table. We had with the MPLA 4 rounds of negotiations, with Portugal playing the role of mediation. I have to say from the offset that we are satisfied with the mediation of Portugal. The Portuguese was a colonial power. However, today they are doing a good job. I have to say also that we want that at late stage, when all the problems are solved, Africa should be associated. We made 4 major concessions to the MPLA in order to get the negotiations on rail. 1, we have recognized Eduardo dos Santos as a head of state of Angola. 2nd, we have recognized their government. 3rd, we decided to forego the participation of UNITA into the interim government and allow the present government of Luanda to run the affairs of the country until we have elections. The last one, as the MPLA showed that they had problems with the revision of their constitution, because Angola today is ruled by a one-party system. We asked them how long they needed to do that. They said they will have only their Congress in December. Then the last concession we made, it is to de-escalate the war in the whole country from October, November, and December in order to give them time to make a revision of their constitution. We are optimistic for several reasons. 1, this time we are talking directly to the MPLA. It's no longer talking through the mediator. We are discussing directly with the MPLA, and we understand their problems, and also I hope that they have understood our problems. There is also a motive for optimism, because for the first time the MPLA have accepted the multi-party system. The government has accepted the principle. The other point of optimism, it's not only Portugal who is mediating, but the United States of America sent observers to the last round of talks and the Soviet Union. Then we think that with the Portuguese mediation and with the presence of the United States delegation, and the Soviet Union, we believe that these talks are going to succeed. More so, that in Africa also things are changing. The multi-party system is having his way. And those who were for one-party system, today they are changing their minds. Around Angola itself, we have Zaire, which has already embarked on the multi-party system. We have Zambia, which also is going to embark in that system next year. We have then south of Angola, Namibia, which is ruled by a democratic system. I think all those reasons, plus the changes in East Europe, where the allies of MPLA were, the Soviet Union, Poland, German, there is no more JDA, now it is all on German. Those were the friends of MPLA, Hungary, Czechoslovakia. All of them, they are no longer prepared to render their support militarily or otherwise to the MPLA because they are now themselves concentrating all their effort on building their own economy and their own political system. Then we think all this environment leads us to be optimistic that the negotiations with MPLA will be successful. We have our targets. The targets being that we hope to work very hard to sign a ceasefire by the end of this year. The second target, we are going to work with the MPLA in order to have a date of elections from the government of Rwanda so that we want elections by the end of the year of 1991. I will speak about our vision of Angola after we reach a settlement. For 15 years, when I was to come here in the United States, people used to ask me, why you believe that democracy is the answer to your problem? If all Africans are ruled by one-party system. For 15 years, we said that is the only solution for the Angolans. If we don't have elections, free and fair, where people, adult Angolans will participate, there will be no peace. There will be no reconciliation at all. I think here I can evoke President Arias, who said, without democracy, there is no peace. Also, we want that elections in Angola will not follow the same pattern as in other countries in Africa, where you have one vote, one man, one vote once. We want that at the regular intervals, the adults will be voting again, because we don't want one vote. We want the vote, but the Constitution should have provisions to permit at a regular intervals people to go to the polls again, so that this will permit other parties to compete with the government which is in power. And also we want a rule of law, so that the people will be equal before the law. There is a difference, theoretically, to say people they are equal before the law, and the practice that, in fact, the people are equal before the law. We want not only theory, but we want also practice. We want to see Angola embarking into an economy of market, free economy of market, where we think the market will determine the dynamism of economy. It's not a centralized economy, which in our country has destroyed completely all our potential. Angola is a very rich country with oil, diamond, cobalt, uranium, agricultural soil which is fertile, water. We have all the ingredients necessary if we have a correct policy towards our economy. We will agree to have a foreign investment, provided that we discuss with the foreign investors through a code of investments, so that those foreign investing in Angola, they will have the right to export back their gains, but also they will participate in the development of our own country. On foreign policy, we will strive to to have the independence of our country defended, the sovereignty of our country defended, in the terms that we will not going to allow to be part of any military pact. We are not going to allow any country to use the soil of Angola to attack another country. We will strive to diminish tension in Southern Africa. And we are going also to cooperate with all the countries in that region. At the same time, we will extend the hand of friendship to all the countries in the world. We want also to subscribe to the fundamental principles enumerated in the Declaration of Universal Human Rights. I think any revolution is moral. If there is no moral with the revolution, I don't think that you can attain your objective. For the simple reason that the men who are involved, they want to feel that there is a respect for their dignity as persons. Though you have battalions, though you have companies, but those individuals, they are the people who make a difference in the fighting. So we think that a revolution is moral. It has to respect the individual, because it is only the way that you can get the support from the people, from the soldiers. Here I want to say that UNITA, when it started his resistance back to 1976, we were only 65 people. But today we are 85,000 people covering all Angola, and Angola is twice the size of Texas. And then we needed the support of the people. We need the support of the chiefs. We need the support of the peasants. If we did not enjoy that support, we could not expand so rapidly in order to cover the whole Angola. It is only a coincidence that I am here, and the program of assistance to UNITA is being discussed at the Congress. I did not come here to lobby for that, because that's the problem of the American citizen. It was only a coincidence, because I wanted to come to the United States in July, but the schedule of the State Department did not allow me to. Then I wanted to come afterwards in August. Then again, it was not possible. So I want to explain that people should not see my presence here as because they are going to discuss the program of support to UNITA in the Hill. However, I will have to make one remark. The assistance of the United States to UNITA has made a difference. I spoke about Mavinga. If we did not get that support from the United States, we could not have prevailed. It is why we think it is important the assistance of the United States to continue. One, because it is working. Because of that assistance, today we are talking with the MPLA. Because of that assistance, today there is a mediation in Portugal going on. The Americans and the Russians are participating. And then to cut the support from UNITA at this time, it will jeopardize the process of discussion, which is being encouraged now in Portugal. However, I want to make a distinction that though we see congressmen, we see the senators, we do it only because they are friends. And we want to update them on the current negotiations. And then they put their questions. And some of them, they have their ideas. But we are not entitled to indulge into operations within the legislation of the United States. It is not our prerogative. It is the prerogative of the Americans. And what we do, we talk to the friend. And we said, this is our case, but how the legislation of the United States goes is not up to us. It is up to the American citizens and those elected in the Congress and in the Senate. Angola has been suffering a lot. Today we have areas which are stricken by hunger because we had 2 full years without rain. We have made an appeal with the world community to try to come to support, to help those in need. We said that we were prepared on what we called the corridors of peace to respect the international groups going there, bringing humanitarian aid to Angolans, even if they have to cross our line, which means if the MPLA have people beyond the lines of UNITA, we will accept our troops to let those convoys pass through in order the Angolans to get food. We don't think that we should make the famine in Angola a political instrument. We think that the people who need food should get food. My last remark, I met with the President, and also I wanted to update the President on the current negotiations, and then we touched on assistance of the United States to UNITA. The President has said that he will maintain that support to us until national reconciliation is attained, until we have a free and fair elections. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. I am at your disposal for questions.
Lady down the end here.
I'm Ruth Sinai with the Associated Press. One of the proposals that will come up next week in the House of Representatives is for the 000 option, and in other words, the cutoff of U.S. and Soviet aid once a timetable for elections is reached between UNITA and the MPLA. How would you feel about that?
I think it's what I said, that that is the prerogative of the elected members of the Congress. So it's not up to UNITA to say what to do. What we are saying is that cutting support to UNITA at this stage, it will jeopardize the negotiations. But how they are going to work out in legislation, it is up to the elected people of the United States.
After you have agreed on a timetable for elections, would you feel it still jeopardizes the process?
Because I think the process has to go through. We have a ceasefire. We have a mutual recognition, which means that UNITA has to become a party, as we did recognize the government of the MPLA. Then we need a date of elections. We have a long process to go. It is why we think any of those changes may jeopardize the negotiations.
Savimbi.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait your turn, please.
Mark Milstein, Compass News Features, London. You said earlier in the week that you're in favor of sending Soviet and American advisors to Angola. To what end?
I did not say that I favor that. The Americans and the Russians are already at the negotiating table with us in Portugal as advisors, because we have seen that the new feature is the Americans and the Russians to work together to solve some of those conflicts. It is within that context that I said we have appreciated that the Americans and the Russians have accepted to participate in that effort to find a peaceful solution to our country.
Jonas Savimbi, Voice of America. Dr. Savimbi, you talked about giving the MPLA until December to recognize you. Does that, but at the same time you talked about negotiating a ceasefire. Is there the possibility that the ceasefire could be signed before that recognition comes, or are we talking about a joint statement of recognition and a ceasefire?
I think in order to make things work, what we have done that from now up to December, we have de-escalated the war, so that the MPLA will have, President Dos Santos will have a free hand to talk to his Congress, to talk to his Central Committee, in order to bring them along for negotiations. One thing. The second thing is that we need to sign a ceasefire. At the same day when we sign a ceasefire, UNITA is recognized, we have a date of elections. Those three things have to be done the day when we sign a ceasefire.
Here.
Dr. Savimbi, I'm Richard Muhammad with the Final Call newspaper. I'd like to ask you, recently there were some more allegations of brutality or atrocity, most recently in an article in the Washington Post. Could you comment on those charges, especially the charges that you're eliminating anyone who could eventually lead, and also if you could comment on why you think black American leaders are so critical of you?
Let me reply the last one first. I think, first of all, the American leaders were critical of UNITA because of South Africa. They say you should not get support from South Africa. Then we said, as we are fighting, because I met with Olusegun Obasanjo, who was the president of Nigeria. And then I said, you are critical of me because you said we have getting support from the South Africans, but no one has given support when the Russians and the Cubans have invaded our country. What do you think? On the end, he said you are right. When you are confronted with life or death, you have to survive first. But that is in the past now, because South Africans have ceased to give any support to UNITA since December 1988. Now, coming to the problem of the propaganda which has appeared in the Washington Post. First, those allegations have appeared before in 1998, 1999. Every time there is something going on about the program of supporting UNITA, they will come up with allegations. But I want to tell you that the list was such big like this. But it's ringing from 16 people, 12 people, now they are talking about 3. Because it is not true. It is not true. Again, the House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee have investigated those allegations. And they come out with the conclusion are found. And we have invited those genuine organizations dealing with human rights, African Watch, the Freedom House, Amnesty International, to come, International Red Cross, to come to investigate those allegations. The International Red Cross is already with us for 3 years. They never reported any. The others did not come. So I think we have prescribed to genuinely people who think that that's a fact to come and to see, because you cannot win a war by killing your own people.
All right. I'll get around to everyone.
And also I'm meeting now with some very outstanding leaders of the black community, very outstanding leaders. Themselves they will say, I knew that you will ask me who, but they tomorrow they will say. Tomorrow themselves they will say. Because they have understood that the difference between me and them was the South African issue. I met already yesterday with the very outstanding leaders of the black community.
Name them now.
I think I will give you some work more so that you can find out. And you are going to get it.
Herman Washington from WHR Radio. You touched on this in your previous response, but what's UNITA's relationship with the South African government? And you also mentioned that UNITA would intercede and try to ease tensions in South Africa. Just want to know what influence you have with the South African government that you could do that.
Then I think it is to ease the tension in Southern Africa, not South Africa. Southern Africa, it comprises Angola, Mozambique, and so forth. Then we don't have any other relations with South Africa. I think, first of all, there are changes, deep changes in South Africa. And the vision of President de Klerk about the role of South Africa in Southern Africa is no longer a role based on military power, but on economic power. And we understand that. So then we don't have any other connection with South Africa.
Other questions? Anyone have anything else to add?
Maybe it is interesting also to say that when Vice President Mandela came here, he was critical of us. But now he brought to me a message from the OAU. He did not understand at that time. But today he understood. And Museveni, who is the president of Uganda and the president of the OAU, he gave him a message to me to say if Savimbi can de-escalate the war in Angola, it will help all of us who want to talk to MPLA so that you can settle your problem.
Jose Ricardo, Portuguese television. I'll make the question in English, but since you have already replied in English, I'd appreciate if you'll do it in Portuguese. It's about this recognition problem. It has generated some confusion in Portugal. Could you clarify that, what UNITA is demanding, and when exactly you want to be recognized, together with the ceasefire, before, after?
Then I think you want it in Portuguese. Now we'll do it with your permission. Then I'm replying in Portuguese for our friend who is a Portuguese journalist. I hope that you don't mind, because it is the same question about the recognition, the ceasefire, and the date of elections. O nosso pensamento que foi entregue ao mediador e que foi aceito é que primeiro era o reconhecimento da UNITA a condicionar o cessar-fogo. Porque depois de cessar-fogo temos que passar para uma ação política. Sem estatuto político não podíamos desempenhar essa função. Mas depois vimos que isso ia levar ao impasse. Então dissemos, não ao reconhecimento agora. Fique para quando se assinar o cessar-fogo. Esta é a versão da verdade.
Can you tell us what countries do you envisage taking part in the monitoring of a ceasefire in Angola?
It is also a progress that we made in Portugal because for the first time MPLA has accepted the international monitoring of the ceasefire and of the elections. But they did not yet said the countries which will participate. But they have advanced the United States, the Soviet Union, and the Portuguese. But we are going to fight for African countries. I think it will not be sufficient to have only observers from the United States, from the Portuguese, and from the Soviet Union. We want also observers from Africa.
Yes, sir, and then I'll get back to you.
On this question of American observers, officials here, when asked about the possibility of U.S. forces of some sort going out to monitor the ceasefire, were very skeptical. Did you, in your conversations with the administration here, advance this notion at all and receive some sort of acceptance of it?
I did not discuss that with the administration here because that one was discussed in Portugal, where a Portuguese, an American delegation was present. When they said it will be good if observers from you, the Russians, from you, the Americans, from you, the Portuguese, will participate. And I think in Lisbon they agreed. Here I did not raise the problem again.
Dr. Savimbi, you said that you would like to see elections, I believe, by the end of 1991. There are some who say that that Angola needs to have a census, that also that there are landmines that need to be removed from the secondary and tertiary roads, and also there needs to be a longer period of time to kind of cool down the passions and the animosity among the people. How do you respond to that, and why do you think that the date that you give is a much better date?
I think there are two issues there that we have to deal with them seriously. One, the day you have a ceasefire, if then you spend 2-3 years waiting for elections, then you are going to have problems to control the soldiers who have accepted the ceasefire. Then unless the period from the ceasefire to elections is short, so that the ceasefire is not derailed. That's one concern. Secondly, in Namibia, the census took only 3 months. If in Angola can take 4 months. Then I think the day you have a ceasefire, this question of mines on our side, and I think also on the side of the MPLA, maybe there will be few areas where people, they don't know where the mines are. But any army, any guerrilla army has a map of where they plant mines. So the day there is a ceasefire, it will be a quick operation to lift the mines. It is not any impediment to move towards elections.
When you talk of African states which you want them to monitor the ceasefire, yes, which countries do you have in mind?
I think, let me just put the background to it. I feel that Angolan civil war has been for long a great concern for all the continent. And they have tried some mediations. And it is why we think we cannot ignore Africa in solving this problem. But I cannot say which ones. I think we will address the problem to the president of the OAU, Museveni, and to say we want African countries to participate in the monitoring of the ceasefire.
Yes, I'm Abubakar Sadiq Ibrahim for BET News, Black Entertainment Television News. My question is that you want to keep your weapons, and also you need about $15 million from the United States to put pressure on the government. In any peace process, negotiations, there's a tendency for, some of the conflicts to be ironed out, and there's a chance for something to be triggered in between that process, which can be diplomatically solved. But when you keep your arms, your opponents or people who oppose your visit to the United States are worried that, in any slightest movement or any argument during the negotiation, you resolve into still destroying Angola. What's your response to that?
My response is this: UNITA will never have arms enough to destroy the MPLA. Let me just say this. From the beginning up to 1998, MPLA was receiving $1.2 billion a year on weaponry. $1.2 billion a year. Then from 1989 up to now, they are receiving $800 million of weaponry. We will never match them. So this is really out of question. Secondly, we are talking of that international monitoring force to neutralize all the armies. And there is a process going on already in the negotiations that we are going to form one unique army. So there will be no one who will have an army. I will have no army, the MPLA will have no army. I think we have thought about that to prevent all those recurrences. We have said while the ceasefire is holding, at the same time preparations are made to form one army, a single one army, which will be then monitored by the international body. So there is no possibility of anyone to take up arms again and fight.
The second question is that you said there's going to be an election immediately after ceasefire agreement. Okay, do you think that you haven't put into consideration that the people in Angola need to be educated about voting process? And do you want, there's a mass illiteracy in African countries, and I don't understand how people will go immediately and start voting for their representatives when they don't understand the electoral process in their country.
I think any African will be insulted to hear that, and I am. Because to say that the Africans, they don't know how to vote, it's not true. Angolans have fought for 30 years. Then 30 years, it was not a war, it was political war, political motives. Our people, they know exactly what they want, exactly. And how it comes. The Namibians fought less time than us. Then they come, the rate of illiteracy in Namibia is higher than in Angola. But they are granted the opportunity, they vote. Then the Angolans, they cannot vote, it is not.
What would you say your relationship will be with South
Identify
Africa?
yourself.
Connie Lawn, how are you? Radio Today. What will your relationship be with the future in South Africa after ceasefire is achieved?
I think after ceasefire is achieved, then we will be together with the MPLA. It will not be UNITA to decide what the future relations will be. But I have to say that as we are encouraged with the progresses being made in South Africa, we hope that by then the apartheid is over. If the apartheid is over, everybody will be willing to have relations with South Africa.
Do you have any general comments on how that situation is evolving in South Africa?
No, that is somebody's country. And I don't know, and I don't want to be involved in that.
We have a gentleman over here.
Porcella, VOA French. Dr. Savimbi, in this same building in 45 minutes, the FNLA is meeting. And as you know, they are accusing you of blocking peace, election, prolonging war. If there is an election, if multi-partyism is allowed, that's the kind of things you'll have to answer to during an election. So how do you feel about that?
It is why I want elections very quickly, because we have two judges here. When people they are making allegations, we say for the immediate satisfaction of the people, because some people who are worried about these allegations, they are genuine people. They want to know. Then we said, please send those organizations, like the Amnesty International, to investigate. They are worried genuinely. They don't want to make propaganda. Other people, they are making it for propaganda. Then the elections, then we want the FN, it is not the FNLA, let me clarify, it is not true. Those people today, they are MPLA. They are not FNLA at all. They were ex-FNLA, but they have joined the MPLA. And you know it. If it is Tuba, if it is Hendrik, no, they are no longer. If you move from your party, from the Democratic Party, you join the Republicans, you are no longer the Democratic Party, you are Republican. And those who are there are not FNLA. They are MPLA, they have joined MPLA. So then we should not confuse the issues. There is no FNLA now talking, as far as we know.
Can you tell us, the elections that you talk about, is this for an assembly charged with drawing up a constitution, or is this a parliament? And if it is
a constitution.
okay. And other parties would be allowed to take part?
Absolutely. The Constituent Assembly, then there will be not only MPLA and UNITA, but MPLA, UNITA, and whoever has a party.
Who will be monitoring this election for you?
We are looking for an international body to monitor elections. We did not say yet in Lisbon it will be the United Nations, but I think the facts will lead to that. When we have even some contingents from Russia, from America, from Portugal, from Africa, I think it is only the United Nations which has the capability of organizing such operations as they have done recently in Namibia.
Another question?
This gets back to the issue of elections, Mr. Savimbi. There's some who say that because of the war and the poverty and the destruction, that if elections are held too closely after the actual ceasefire, that people will still be in a very bad condition, and whoever would be in the greater position to buy votes would ultimately win the election.
Angolans will not be bought. Angolans have suffered. Brother, you have to be sure of what I'm saying. 30 years of war continuously, it's not a small thing. In Black Africa, is the only one. And the people, they know exactly what they want. If you give him money, he will not come with you.
Another question? How were you received on the Hill? You went visiting to
Yes,
some of
visiting my
the
friends.
congressmen and the senators, and just what was their reaction to all of this?
I talked to the friends, and the friends received me well. I talked to those who are critics, but you know democracy in America is so well crafted that even your opponent, he talks to you nicely. But on the end, they say, I don't agree with you, but you shake hands. I think that's a good thing in democracy.
Are you going to be on television this time, on Nightline, for example?
I don't know. I don't know my problem.
How about the food problem? Are you going to, what's your role? How are you going to play that? The food is going to be coming through Namibia as a third party. What is going to be your role? Are you going to object?
We are cooperating. We are the people who have initiated the corridors of peace. And then we said any people in need of food should not be deprived of that because of politics. Then we have to neutralize areas where we have guerrillas so that the MPLA, not the MPLA, the United Nations can pass with their convoys to take food to the MPLA people. So this is already in motion. It's working.
You heard that the area in your control are the most affected. Is that correct?
It is not only my area, which means that it is the southern part of Angola, central part of Angola, and eastern part of Angola. We are in eastern and central part of Angola. The western part of Angola, which is to the coast, Benguela, where the MPLA are, is also very much affected.
Yes, sir.
USIA. You've, God, I forgot. Just had it. Go ahead. It just gone out of my head. I'll get back.
Savimbi, you spent 30 minutes with President Bush. Could you go over the highlights of the discussion, please?
I think it were not highlights and downsides. It was only that the President said, I told him, President, the negotiations are going well. Then we asked your support to continue the negotiations. Then he said, yes, I got the report from Portugal that things are going well. Are you optimistic? I said, I am optimistic. Then I think there were not highlights and downsides. And then I said, President, are you going to continue your support to UNITA until we reach the goal? I said, yes, I will do it. That's all. 2 points.
30 minutes. Oh, the end of the table, and then we'll get back to you.
2 points in 30 minutes is...
Yeah, Peter Coleman with Viz News. I was wondering how you would classify your recent meetings with the Soviets.
Went well. Went well. I think it is the first time we met them officially, and they have admitted it. So it is difficult. For years, we never met with them. So then the start was very difficult. Until after 2-3 days talking, we think that they are open, they are listening. I think the most I can say, they are listening. I'm seeing him only today.
What is your agenda with him?
I think I don't have yet. I will, when I go there, I will have. But not this moment.
You have your question.
Try again. You've outlined several possible roles for African states, and I understand President Museveni is in Washington today. Do you anticipate meeting with him and thrashing this out a little bit, or are there future meetings planned with him in his role as OAU?
I did not know if he is here, but I will give instructions to our foreign secretary to try, because he will. He will receive us. We will ask to see him. I did not know that he was here.
We had another one back
Yes,
here.
again. When you met President Bush and you discussed with him the possibilities of the U.S. participating in monitoring the ceasefire, what level of U.S. involvement were you looking for?
I think we have to agree with the MPLA, because on that we are already in the same frequency. MPLA and UNITA, we are in the same frequency. We want the international supervision, but we are not looking for big groups. Those will be observers. And if we want big groups, they will be from Africa. I think it will go down well with the continent.
Do you have another question?
Mr. Savimbi, in your meeting with the African American leaders, can you comment on anything about
I will. I met one of the most outstanding leaders of the black community, and I said, first of all, I met in the Congress with the black congressmen, and I said, you are making a mistake. You are not giving the leadership in Africa. When we have Liberia torn up with war, Angola, Ethiopia, Mozambique, but what's your role? You are taking sides, but you should be neutral to bring the parts together to show your leadership. And he replied to me, said, yes, we did it, we took sides, but it is wrong, but now it's over. Because what divided us from you, it was the South African issue. And that was up the hill. Then when I saw the leader I'm speaking about, I brought the same, we need your leadership. But he said, the question of Africa is so complicated that you have now things in Liberia, you have things here and there and there and there. We don't know which one that we are going. And we said, any question concerning Africa must concern you. I said, even if you come to me and you criticize, I am okay. When you go to MPLA, criticize them also, because they are not doing everything fine. But where we think that you are doing well, tell us we are doing well. When the MPLA are doing it, tell them. But don't be absent. I think that's my message. It remains so.
Is that about that leader you're talking about?
I said no.
You didn't know. All right. We have time for just another one or two. All right, back there. The light's in our eyes, so it's hard to see. So would you identify yourself, please?
Jacqueline Rose. I'm with the Press Club Speakers Committee. What is the level of trust in the healing process after so many years of war, and what are the relationships at all levels, the higher political and the ordinary citizen, between the various groups? What's that process going to be like to heal and build trust?
It is my deep conviction that we are going to surprise the world. Because people, they think that we have been fighting for long and we hate each other. It's not. It's only that my negotiators who came from Lisbon, they went to another function, and they report to me that when they are in the negotiating table like this one, MPLA and UNITA, they argue because each one is bargaining for a better position. But when they leave, they talk about when we were here, when we were there, you are coming from there. There is no animosity at all among themselves. The Angolans are like that. And also, though the people, they feel the pain, this is a fact, but also they are more anxious to see peace restored in the country. And they are prepared to embrace the peace and not continue with the sentiments.
All right. Any other? This gentleman?
One last question, Mr. Savimbi. First of all, thank you very much.
We're carrying on a little
Okay, I will get it. I will.
The last one is just generally about African self-determination. At this point, you have the Portuguese, the Americans, and the Soviets involved in what will happen in Angola. At what point do you anticipate that these other parties will be removed and the Angolan people, regardless of where they stand in the spectrum of leadership, will deal with what will happen in Angola?
I think you have there two problems. One is that the Russians, the Portuguese, the Americans, they are only helping to create the conditions for negotiations. And when those are created, we are going to stay on our own. They will come maybe on monitoring, but we are not saying that they will take us as babies until the day of independence. It is not that. The problem is that now they are helping. The day when they feel these people are talking seriously, then I think they will remain behind. We will see them again in the monitoring.
All right, Ms. Mo.
I'd like to ask Dr. Savimbi, I remember you were saying English was your fourth best language. What are the other three?
I speak Portuguese well because the Portuguese is like it's not mother tongue because I speak an African language first and I speak Portuguese, then French, then English.
I remember you were debating Randall Robinson in your fourth best language. I think that's remarkable.
No, English is not even, I learned English with missionaries. I did not go to school. I did not attend any school for English. French I did, but English I learned it with the missionaries some times ago.
Please join me in giving a warm press club welcome to Jonas Savimbi, President of the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank the National Press Club for inviting me again here and to address the Angolan problem. Second, I thank you all for giving me your time. With this press conference, I am ending my week-long activities here in Washington. I consider that my activity has met with unqualified success. When we came, we brought along with a draft ceasefire agreement, which we presented to the administration. When I met with the President yesterday and when I met with the Secretary of State this morning, they gave their approval to our draft ceasefire agreement. Second, we got from the administration the commitment that they will be more involved in supporting negotiations, what we have asked from the beginning, that the administration should be more involved in order to give support to the mediator and to negotiations. Also yesterday, President Bush has reassured me that United States will remain steady in support of UNITA and our goals. And our goals are known as being the ceasefire, the national reconciliation, and the free and the fair elections. We were also pleased that discussing with the administration, our reading of the Bardolit Agreement is similar or equal to their reading. I explain. The administration rejects the exiles, the integrations, the amnesties, and the clemencies. Then we were very happy about that. And also the administration has endorsed our position that we can only proceed in the negotiations and attain results if there is a face-to-face negotiations between us and the MPLA directly and not through a third party. As you know, we have had some problems with President Mobutu, and I think that those problems today, we consider them that they are in the way of being solved. On my demand, I'm going to meet President Mobutu very soon so that we put this process of negotiations back on track. We were also very happy to see that the support of UNITA is expanding. And we witnessed an inauguration or launching of a new task force for Angola in the House, which now the support of UNITA in the House is becoming strongly bipartisan. As you know, after 14 years of war, it is very difficult to reach an agreement overnight. But there is, on the side of the Angolans, the will and the resolve to reach that agreement. If the meeting at Badolit, June the 22nd, did not give us the results we expected, it is because there was such confusion that all of you know what we are talking about. But I think with the positions of the United States becoming clear, and with that the position of the mediator, President Mobutu, will become also clear, we are going to know about what to discuss. Then if we have to discuss about ceasefire, national reconciliation, then we proceed with other points. It's not correct when people they say that UNITA does not enjoy the support of African countries. We do. We do. It is why in our proposal of ceasefire we said that it is not enough. The forces of UNITA and the forces of MPLA and the forces of Zaire to monitor the ceasefire. But other African countries should join in. And that point got the acceptance of the administration. And also when we were talking this morning to Democrats at the Hill, they said that that idea was good. And I think this will bring more African countries to play a positive role in monitoring the ceasefire. And also I want to say that when people they say that elections, free and fair elections in Africa, it is not the method to solve the problems, political problems, of conflict. We say no, because no one 2-3 years ago could speak about elections and democracy in Poland, but it is there. And what's happening in Hungary, what's happening in East Germany, what's happening in Algeria, all points to the fact that democracy is sweeping the world. Africans will not have enough hands to stop the winds of democracy to reach our continent. And for our own understanding, democracy, it's not a luxury. Democracy is a necessity of life and development. This is my last function here in Washington. And when I came with a resolve of putting my agenda, but I didn't know how I will live, if I will get all that I wanted, or if I will get half of it, or nothing. But I'm telling you that I am satisfied. I got almost all that I wanted. Then when I go back home, you imagine I will be very well received by my followers. I thank you, and I take all the questions that you put to me.